The Kruger's sun poured down like burning fire, distorting the air above the pitch-black asphalt road that cut through the golden savanna. A line of SUV vehicles filled with tourists sat frozen, not because of engine failure, but because of a primal fear blocking the path ahead. In the center of the road, a massive male lion with a majestic black mane stood motionless. He did not roar, nor did he intend to hunt. He simply stood there, his amber eyes piercing through every car window with a strange persistence, as if searching for a familiar soul among a sea of strange faces. Every sound of the wilderness seemed swallowed by a deathly silence, until the mechanical click of a car door echoed. A pair of leather shoes touched the parched asphalt, creating rhythmic taps amidst the astonishment of the crowd. Elena stepped out, small and alone. She ignored the terrified whispers from surrounding cars and the rifles of conservation officers aimed from a distance. Every step she took on the scorching road was a direct confrontation with death. 10 years is a long time for wild instincts to erase all traces of human connection. Leading experts had warned her that the weak lion cub she once saved was long dead, replaced by a ruthless king with over 150 kilograms of muscle and scars from hundreds of battles for survival. But looking into those eyes, Elena did not see a killer. She saw a weary longing that had lasted a decade. She was betting her life on a fragile fragment of memory, a promise left unspoken during their party. As Keto began to lower his shoulders and take his first steps toward her, the entire world seemed to hold its breath to witness a moment that would redefine the boundary between human and beast. Memory took Elena back to a South African night 10 years ago, when the sky was not black, but a fierce glowing red from forest fires. Smoke and dust crept into every leaf, and the crackling of burning dry branches created a funeral march for the savanna. In that chaos, Elena's father, a dedicated biologist, brought home a small bundle wrapped in an old wool blanket that smelled of acrid smoke. Inside was Keto, a lion cub only a few weeks old, gasping for air and alone after his pride was consumed by the flames. Back then, Keto was not the majestic lord people feared on the asphalt today. He was merely a frail creature with slightly burned paws and eyes clouded by smoke. Elena, then a passionate young woman, accepted this life as a destiny. The long nights that followed were a grueling battle for survival. Elena did not sleep. She spent hours checking his temperature and using small syringes to drop milk into the trembling mouth of the cub. She remembered vividly the feeling of Keto's soft fur against her palm and the way he tucked his head into the crook of her neck to find warmth, as if it were the safest place on earth. The bond between them grew with every breath of the savanna. As Keto recovered, he began to see Elena not just as a caregiver, but as his only remaining kid. A wordless language formed between them that no animal expert could explain. Keto had a very specific habit. Whenever he saw Elena, he would emit a deep vibration in his chest, a powerful purr of the big cat family that Elena called his happy roar. It was the sound of absolute trust, a sound that blurred all boundaries between a small woman and a beast of the green forest. As he grew, Keto displayed the instincts of a king, but before Elena, he remained the child of 10 years ago. On brilliant sunsets, people often witnessed a strange sight at the rescue center. A teenage lion chasing the hem of a young woman's dress, or both lying on the dry grass. Keto resting his head on Elena's lap while quietly listening to her heartbeat. However, Elena understood that the greatest love she could give Keto was not to keep him, but to return him to where he belonged. The day of parting was a deep wound in her heart. When the cage door opened to the National Reserve, Keto stood still for a long time. He looked into Elena's eyes with a gaze that held no fear, only a vast sadness, as if asking why this mother was abandoning him in the desert. Keto walked away, his massive shadow fading into the dust of the savanna, leaving Elena with a silent promise that she would never forget. She thought it was the end of the most beautiful chapter of her life, until rumors of the aggressive king on the asphalt began to spread 10 years later. 10 years is long enough for a lion cub to become a legend, and long enough for a young girl to become a seasoned conservation expert. While Elena was busy with projects in distant lands, Quito had written a new history for himself in the harsh lands of Botswana. Reports from the reserve described Quito as the most majestic black-maned king ever recorded. He had survived dozens of territorial wars, carrying long scars on his face like medals of survival, eventually becoming the supreme ruler of a vast savanna. However, there was something strange about Quito that puzzled scientists and forestry officials. Usually, dominant male lions avoid humans and vehicles to maintain their dignity. But Quito did the opposite. He frequently appeared on a main asphalt road cutting through the reserve, the only place where the wild world encountered human civilization. Quito did not hide in the bushes to stalk prey. He stood tall in the middle of the road, forcing tourist convoys to stop. Videos circulating on social media showed a terrifying image. A giant lion roaring fiercely at the front of a bus, his eyes scrutinizing the thick black glass windows. Tourists were terrified, calling him the insane killer or the nightmare of the asphalt. The reserve management began to worry that Quito had lost his natural fear of humans, and once a lion becomes too aggressive toward vehicles, it is considered a threat that must be removed for safety. On the other side of the world, Elena watched those shaky clips on her computer screen. While millions saw aggression, she saw something entirely different. She observed the way Quito tilted his head, the way he walked around the cars, and looked deep inside with a heartbreaking longing. A crazy thought flashed in her mind. Quito was not attacked. He was searching. He remembered that 10 years ago, humans brought him here in a vehicle. And for 10 years, he had patrolled this road, waiting for the only person who had ever given him warmth. Despite all warnings from colleagues who insisted that predatory instinct had erased the memories of a 10-year-old beast, Elena decided to return. She knew that if she did not appear, Quito might be shot with a tranquilizer dart or worse. The journey back to Botswana was not just a field trip. It was a race against time to save the soul of a stray king. Standing at the gateway of the reserve, Elena felt the heat of the savanna hit her face, carrying the scent of dry grass and dust, scents she and Quito had inhaled together 10 years ago. She knew she was entering a gamble where the price was her life, but she also knew that somewhere on that long asphalt road, a wild heart was beating the rhythm of waiting. The asphalt road through the reserve now resembled the stage of a tragedy waiting for its final curtain. Jeeps and tourist buses lined up, engines idling, but no one dared move. Not far away, Quito lay crouched in the middle of the road, his long tail lashing against the hot asphalt, a clear sign of agitation. The midday sun fell on his black mane, creating an appearance both authoritative and menacing. Elena sat in the lead vehicle, her heart pounding as if it would burst from her chest. She took a deep breath, her trembling hands finding the door handle. "You cannot do this, Elena. He will tear you apart in seconds."
"Please, let me go."
The ranger with her shouted, his hand already on the butt of his rifle. But Elena did not answer. She knew that if a shot rang out now, even a tranquilizer, the fragile bond between her and Quito would be broken forever. She opened the door and stepped out. The sound of her leather soles hitting the dry asphalt rang out sharply, breaking a silence so heavy you could hear the wind whistling through distant baobab trees. From the cars behind, hundreds of tourists held their breath. Camera lenses pointed at the small woman walking alone toward the lord of the savannah. Quito immediately stood up. He lowered his center of gravity, his muscular shoulders tensed, and a low, long roar that shook the ground erupted from his chest. The golden eyes of the black-maned king locked onto the target. In the world of lions, a creature approaching directly like this could only be an enemy or prey. Elena stopped when the distance was less than 10 meters. She felt the heat radiating from Quito's massive body, the scent of wild beast and dust filling her nostrils. "Quito, my little one, it is me," Elena called softly, her voice trembling but filled with a strange tenderness. She did not look into his eyes in a defiant way, but tilted her head slightly, a gesture she used 10 years ago to reassure him. The lion suddenly froze. He narrowed his eyes, his large nose sniffing the air intensely, trying to find something buried under the dust of 10 years of hunting and killing. Elena began to whistle a short melody, the tune she used whenever she brought a milk bottle to him during cold nights at the rescue center. An eerie silence covered the entire road. Keto took one step, then two. The guards had chambered their rounds, sweat pouring down their foreheads. The lion was now right in front of Elena, his massive head level with her chest. He opened his mouth, revealing long, sharp fangs. Some tourists in the crowd closed their eyes, unable to watch what came next. But then, instead of a brutal pounce, Keto abruptly stopped. He stretched his neck out, sniffing deeply at Elena's hair. 1 second, 2 seconds passed like an entire century. Suddenly, the most ferocious beast in the reserve relaxed his body, emitted a deep purr, and leaned his heavy head against Elena's shoulder, causing her to stagger back a step. It was not an attack. It was the hug of a child reunited with a mother after 10 years of being lost. In the middle of the modern asphalt road, a symbol of human encroachment, an unbelievable scene unfolded that made time stand still. Elena wrapped her arms around Keto's thick, coarse black mane, her fingers sinking into the sun-drenched fur of the Savanna King. Her tears fell, blurring into the hide of the beast. Keto no longer growled threateningly. He stood still, eyes closed, repeatedly nuzzling Elena's neck while making soft whimpering sounds like a grievance after 10 years of waiting and loneliness. The tourists watching from afar, who had just been trembling with fear, were now silent. Many could not hold back tears witnessing the power of a love that transcends all boundaries of instinct and species. The reunion lasted only a few short minutes on the asphalt, but for Elena, it was worth more than a decade of separation. She understood she was right. Keto had never become aggressive due to a cruel nature. He was simply using his roar as a lighthouse, hoping his old friend would hear and find the way back. Now, as Elena's warmth touched that wild heart, the longing in Keto seemed soothed. He had found the answer he had sought throughout 3,650 days of patrolling this road. Elena stepped back, her hand gently stroking Keto's ears one last time. She looked deep into those golden eyes, whispering words of love and an apology for making him wait so long. "Go, Keto. This is your home. Be a true king," she whispered. As if understanding the message, Keto stood tall, reclaiming his inherent majesty. He no longer looked at the tourist vehicles with scrutinizing eyes. He turned his head, slowly walking toward the tall sun-scorched grass beside the asphalt. As his massive shadow was about to sink into the yellow of the savanna, Keto stopped, looking back at Elena one last time, a look of serenity, freedom, and pride. Elena returned to the car, and the vehicle moved away from the reserve, leaving behind an asphalt road that was now peaceful. From then on, the black maned lion was no longer seen blocking tourist convoys. Keto truly returned to being a ghost of the savanna, living the wildest, freest life he deserved. The story of Keto and Elena spread across the world as a testament. The heart of a wild animal is not a barren land of ignorance, but a place containing the most enduring memories. The trip brought Elena infinite peace. She realized that the sincere love she gave Keto 10 years ago had not disappeared. It had transformed into a strength that helped the animal survive and maintain faith amidst the harshness of nature. The message Elena brought back was not just about animal conservation, but about the miraculous connection between all species. Humans may forget, asphalt roads may wear down, but the purest vibrations of friendship will always exist, like an invisible thread connecting the soul of man and the spirit of the green forest.